Welcome in everyone to another IT Leadership Lab live stream. Today I've got a few folks on here to talk about today's topic, which is making the case for headcount, which every IT leader loves having to deal with budgets, and it's even more, I think it's trickier when, you have something as soft as just hiring more people for the work that you need to do, because I think every IT team is held together with shoestrings and things like that. So it should be an interesting conversation. And yeah, if you are new to the IT Leadership Lab, welcome in. This is a community dedicated to IT leaders, so you can share content, you can learn from your peers, build community, and connect with IT leaders that are actually doing the job that you are also doing, so you can learn from each other and grow within your role. And with that, we also host bi-monthly webinars so that we talk about various IT leadership topics and bring on leaders within the space that can share their expertise. And these might be topics that are more granular and tech related, or they might be soft skills like talking to executives and making business cases and things like that. So it should be a really good conversation today. I'm going to go ahead and have everybody introduce themselves. I know that they're all familiar faces at this point, but if we want to start off, Clark, you want to talk a little bit about your journey in IT and what you're doing now?
Oh boy. So I'm definitely the oldest one here. I've been working with computers since Commodore 64 in the early 80s. Currently, I own a managed IT service provider here in the Dallas area, and we specialize in private equity, hedge funds, and family offices. We've grown organically since 2004, been in business since 2004. The journey, in college, I worked at the computer lab on campus and have worked my way all the way from help desk now to owner of a company. So I've worked in every single position. I totally identify with every frustration and success along the way, and what it takes to do every position. And my employees benefit from that because I can totally put myself in their shoes. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate having you out again. Tim, I don't know what else there is to say other than hello and welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me again. I'll continue to always see it as a sign of at least I'm good for something. I'm kidding. No, my name is Tim Lanning. I'm the vice president of IT for a nonprofit here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm actually at the office today. Met some folks, and it was a good time. Had an open house and got to kind of shake hands with people I didn't expect, and that's just the way it goes. But been in this role for over a year and a half now, but have over a decade of experience in IT, again, like Clark, but with way less time. Started from the very beginning, level 1 help desk, and worked my way up to at least vice president, and learned a lot of lessons. And similar to Clark, same thing. I can sympathize with just about any struggle, and I've been there, and I think that is a very empathetic leadership style that I have. And excited to talk about making the case for headcount because I've been through that process twice now. So.
Yeah, and I think pretty recently too that you've also been through it. So
Yes. Yeah, as of July.
Yeah. So it'll be good to hear from you on that. Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor Stewart with the City of Lakeville. I've worked here just shy of 20 years now, and like Tim and Clark, I kind of worked my way up. I started with the entry-level position, went to like a systems position, had that title change a few times as I worked my way up to leadership now, and an IT manager. So I'm kind of here representing the internal IT and government public sector side of things. I actually have a very similar leadership style to Tim, which we've talked about on a few different occasions in terms of leading empathetically, which gets me to kind of know my staff well, kind of understand the stresses that they're under, and then make that argument for headcount on my behalf and their behalf, so I don't have too much turnover. And I'm still waiting to hear back for next year to see if I got mine approved or not.
Yeah. How long do you usually have to wait to hear back about your headcount approval? usually
It
take a
got
while.
it got declined last year.
Oh
So
gosh.
everything we do budget-wise starts kind of in May for my area, and then with the way budgets work in the government, it was put through in May, and then kind of has a chance to get chopped all the way until it's officially signed in December. So we're fingers
Oh
crossed.
wow. Okay. Man, so they really down to the wire. I'm getting that.
Very
Um,
much.
yeah, so my first question kind of has to do with headcount in general. So you might know that you need headcount. Um, Naturally, as a leader of your team, you know what things need headcount. How do you kind of communicate that to executives or upper management that might be a higher level than you, that you need headcount um, in a way that kind of aligns with any business initiatives or business goals?
Right. So for me, I when I started as IT manager, and now that's over 3 years ago, it was just me. I was the first internal IT hire here. Very quickly, I communicated to my boss, the chief technology officer at the time, that I needed help. And so he helped me make the case for headcount, and that got approved mainly because they realized that I was going to burn out and probably be a withered husk in the corner in short order. So they did get me one other person. From there, I was moved into the VP role and had to make the case myself. Um, and immediately what I did is I kind of looked at my landscape and saw, and we're going to talk about this at length, I imagine, saw where my problem spots were. I knew what I needed. I had to research, okay, what's actually going to fix this? Do it. In this case, I need more support people. Okay, cool. I need a support person and I need an engineer type person to help me with some projects. Okay, great. What data can I go find to go back that up? Because everyone in the organization is screaming at my boss, the CFO, for more people. But what really separated my ask was, look, we're handling X number of tickets. I need help on the support side, and I also have Y number of projects. You're going to have to give me help to get this done. And it happened. I made my case like initially. I sent an email, here's what I need. She kind of forgot about the email, the CFO, until we had a lunch conversation a couple weeks after I started, and she asked me point blank, what do you need to succeed? I had already done all the research. I just pulled that back up, handed it back to her in person, and she said, okay, approved, go get it done. Just like that. I mean, and that's not normal. Trevor's already clued us in on how this process can go, and your mileage may vary, but first things first, you as the IT leader, you have to be prepared. You can't go in with vibes and goodwill and expect an executive to even entertain that. You have to have that backed up with data, whatever that data is.
Yeah, absolutely. To add to that, Tim, yeah, and I think this is where you're going, but for IT, it is so easy to argue head count because we can look at other departments and say, hey, I can accomplish more in your department with less, as long as I have automation and the right processes in place. And if I have more team able to free up more people's time in those departments because they don't have these problems anymore, that's an easy business case that we can argue, but it takes a lot of data to support that and the right kind of argument to approach a C level or whoever you're reporting to. I think that's where you were heading. Don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
It's important. Tim and I both talked about having empathetic leadership styles, and that's great. That doesn't necessarily mean the person we're going to be asking for headcount has an empathetic leadership style. Going up and saying, my guy's going to be a burnt out husk in the corner doesn't necessarily mean anything to the person who's signing your checks as much as you would love it to. So a lot of times it's good to know who you're talking to and to have those data points like Tim talked about. I know the Leadership Lab has a video on KPIs. We talked a lot about measuring with metrics. Those are very important things to be able to take into the discussion. Even the time that I got my positions declined, my boss said, I understand you need these positions. I understand that you guys are overworked, and I see what you want to do with these positions. I cannot approve it right now because our tax levy is going to be too high. And that's just simply a financial problem. One of the things that was repeated to me, I took away from that, is you just have to keep trying. So it's not a personal attack. You don't take offense to it. Go again, apply again next year. Keep trying. Keep showing the justifications. You log the tickets that you do so you can show what you're doing. You log the tickets and the requests that you can't do so you can show what's fallen off the table. Even now, I still was applying for 2 positions. One of them was moving forward, one's still not. The one that is not moving forward is an automation position, just like Clark talked about. I'm trying to bring a person in that can help the other departments streamline, but I do not have a good metric on how that can help them. I don't have any data point I could show them that's going to save how many minutes for a different department. So it's a very hard sell for me, and that's just my failure on a leader side.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, really, that's you could get some. As long as you're not telling the department head that you're working with that you're trying to increase your numbers while reducing their numbers, you can go in it as an efficiency thing and let them do the work for you. They probably already have it. They know exactly how much time it takes for them to do X. They could probably present that to you, and then you can just take that work with you and assimilate it to what you have. And I've done that numerous times, and that's a pretty easy win for everybody, because not only are you helping their team be more efficient, but you're also gaining headcount to take care of the one thing everybody uses every single day in their work life. I mean, I can't believe sometimes people approach this as this is a cost center. It is not, we're not making a profit from my team. Well, actually, you really are, because your resources are who make your profit for you. And if we can make their lives so much easier, it's a win for everybody. And it's a hard angle to approach, but you can do it as long as you approach from a business perspective, because they're just looking at dollars. That's all they care about. And then how are you going to save them money? Well, we're going to save your money by headcount in this other department by automating all of these things. Yes, we're going to have to pay for an automation expert, but oh well, we're going to save all this money.
Mm-hmm. So much of what you do in this field, especially, and I had to learn this very quickly, you cannot succeed in making the case for headcount if you don't know the lay of the land. If you don't know who your movers and shakers are, what their temperaments are, the easiest way to do that is just go have conversations with them. And I like to imagine back the years, I'm kidding, it was a year and a half, since I started in this role. The first thing I did was I went and asked a bunch of dumb questions. It's like, what's our process for this? This is new to me, right? I've reiterated this. I can sense the sub theme throughout all the webinars I've been on is you have a lot more justification and a lot more reason to ask dumb questions when you're first starting out in a role. But when you're down there 5 years in the role, the patience is a little lessened for that. So definitely take advantage of that. But if you've been there for 5, 10, 20 years, there's really no harm. I mean, I would like to think as a leader, if someone came to me and asked me a dumb question, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I mean, you should know this, but like, here's the answer. That I'm just helping you. But you can't know what tactic to use to make your case if you don't know the person that you're asking. And so also you help yourself by not seeing them as a threat, as an enemy, because especially if it's finance, they have financial considerations. It's all dollars and cents to them, like we've said. So if you go to them and you say, hey, I'm just trying to be a judicious spender of your dollars, you're increasing the odds of your headcount happening. And then, of course, there is the almighty, like, no, that they're going to roll out anyway. Trevor knows this firsthand, but sometimes that just happens. It's nothing personal, like you said.
Yeah, that actually tees up one of the questions that I had, which is tailoring this request for headcount to the different audience that you are speaking to, because more than likely it's not just going to be one person saying no, you can't have headcount. It's going to be multiple people. So what are the kinds of people that you have to interact with to get this headcount approved, and how do you tailor that justification towards each of those different people?
So I have a few different approaches. There's the people that you see often. So my direct the person I direct report to, my boss, he's a lot closer to us and knows a lot more about the details. I don't overwhelm him with all the information about the places that things are lacking, but during our meetings, I do share about certain projects that we're not able to complete. That just gets somebody directly above me that is on my side and will advocate for me. For the city administrator position in our case, which is kind of like your CEO type of thing, it's overseen by the board. He specifically likes to see data point numbers, not necessarily just the financials of it. He's perfectly capable of understanding that everyone always wants money. So it's not just about the money, but about what that value can bring. So for him, I try to talk about turnaround times, the things that we can add with the positions, how much work we can alleviate in the automation world, to try to illustrate that it's not even about getting rid of people in other departments, but I know every other department's asking the same question. So maybe if you give this automation technician or whatever you'd like to call it a spot, I can help decrease the workload so that they don't need so many more people. And then HR, they generally just don't want to add people because it's a lot of work for them. I mean, I love my HR department, but any person you add is just one more person for them. So I'm sure they can take it or leave it. And finance wise, they always just want to know where the money's going to come from. So depending on which budget or fund, which is going to pay for it, sometimes it's easier if I can find somebody that makes their own revenue in our world to help chip in. This is going to be from the water department, that we don't have to take as much in taxes. They like that kind of thing as well. So it's a know your audience thing, which is a little easier with experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think most of us in IT report to the CFO, which already dictates it's about money and that we're a cost center. So typically that's going to be your target audience. I have reported to some chief compliance officers before, and then if there's on the odd chance that you have a CISO, you might report to them as well to help their initiatives. But it kind of comes down to like what we were talking about last week. Know your target audience. Study their office. What kind of books do they read? What kind of what statues they have in their office, and then kind of identify with that. So establish a relationship first and foremost. But definitely, if you're speaking to a CFO, you want to come with numbers and you want to show them even the intangible numbers, which is not assets, but how we can be more efficient, because CFOs don't really understand efficiency as much as, say, a COO or a CEO understands efficiency. But you need to come to them and give them that argument and write it all out for them so that they can take it to their CEO, and the CEO will automatically understand it. So sometimes your direct report is not really the target audience. Sometimes the target audience is who they make.
Uh-oh. I think Clark's breaking up a little bit.
Well,
but yeah.
I'll jump in there. I think he's entirely right. Like, you have to know exactly the chain of command there. I mean, I'm nonprofit, so everything is run through the CFO here, and she is honestly, she's more important than the CEO. And I'm not saying that because I report to her. Like, it's genuinely true. The CEO all the time is like, what can I do? And that's that relationship. And so I have to pick up on that. Helps that I report directly to her. But one thing I've noticed is that if I do incredibly hard work, right, that's the thing that my CFO does not like, is laziness and asking for headcount because you don't want to work. Well, she knows that I'm an incredibly hard worker. Whatever she gives me, I'm going to do to the best of my ability as quickly and as excellently as possible. If I'm asking for something, it's because I genuinely need it, not because I'm trying to schmooze her or, just inflate a budgetary item somewhere. She's got plenty of departments doing that. She knows that IT doesn't do that. That's why I've been successful in all of my asks so far. Part of it, too, we're undergoing massive organizational growth. It's really easy to justify positions like that because I can argue from economies of scale. And we've said that, too, with the automation. I can do way more with way less than like a programmatic caseworker. You have to have certain ratios of those. But you give me one technician, just one technician, I would love to. Give me two, please, but I can make do with one. I've made that specific argument. And she said, no, you can have two. But good to know that you can function with one. So again, know your audience, make the case.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked a little bit about metrics and how you actually measure the need for additional headcount. What are some KPIs and metrics that you kind of keep track of that can help with this business case?
Well, I know everybody has a ticketing system, I would hope. So the most basic thing you can do is keep track of what your repair people are doing. I use the same system because we can get metrics out of it to track every automation improvement request, however you want to phrase it. Any request to make some kind of improvement somebody has ends up going into that system. A lot of times I'm hoping to get to it. I won't lie. I want to accomplish it in-house. I want to get it done. More and more often, when you fall behind headcount wise, that list is going to grow rather than even maintain or shrink. And that's not necessarily a great feeling. So that's very helpful as well. So you can turn around, and if you start to compartmentalize and break down which things are automations, maybe something that's outside of your wheelhouse. And Tim said very early in this, identify the missing positions and what you can do best with them. Put those into those different position levels and be like, if I had somebody who was good at scripting, if I had somebody who was really good at working in Power Automate or some other technology, I could knock a lot of these things out and go shopping even for more work for them. That's how I monitor mine.
Yeah.
Now, I brought this up before, but I use what's called Culture Index for our team, and it's based off the programmer guy who did Moneyball. So if you watch that movie, this is where the foundation of this is. It's the only it's not a personality test, but it's a work traits test. So it's the only one that the EEOC approves that you can hire off of. So you can actually legitimately hire off this. So let me give you a story. I don't want to monopolize time, but I think it's helpful. So I went to a networking group, a networking CEO group, and the night before they asked us to fill out this quiz, it took like maybe 8 minutes, and it was just a bunch of words. And I was like, I don't know what they're going to get out of this. So I get to the meeting, and the guy goes around the table telling everybody how great they are and how good they are, and so on and so forth. They get to me, and he says, "Man, you're terrible at this. You're horrible at that." Da, 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 da. He starts beating me up, calling me all kinds of names. And I'm like, okay, yep. Oh, and so he says, "Can anybody tell me why I told everybody, how good they were and why I beat up on Clark?" And, nobody had the answer. So he said, well, basically Clark can take it and you guys can't, because Clark doesn't look at it. He looks for solutions. He doesn't, he takes his ego out of it. So I was like, wow, okay. I never thought about that about myself. So it made me think about myself much differently. And he said, if you apply this to your team, you're going to have a winning team in 3 months. So I was like, wow, okay, let me do that. So I went and had all of my team take this test, and it came back, and it was like most of my team were not in the right position. So the other way you can approach this is look at your team, and maybe there's some burnout when there's some, or they're doing something that they really aren't good at, and they need to focus on other things. So what happened was I had my team take this test. He advised me, he said, no, this guy needs to be doing this. This guy is not a customer-facing person. He needs to be on the back end. So I moved a lot of people around, and my team just took off. And because of that, I gained more clients. I know you could do this internally, and that's the other part of this is if you demonstrate a well-oiled machine that is very efficient and knocking it out of the park every single day, to keep up the pun, then they will start giving you more money for your budget. They will start allocating more your way because they see how efficient and productive you are. And that's just by turning your own team around. And I've seen this a couple of times, and I've grown significantly because it's a great management methodology, the Moneyball, because we're all good at certain things. We're not necessarily good at evaluating what we're good at. And if you look at it from the outside, and if you look at statistics and numbers and what your default value, your default work trait is, that's where you need to be positioned to be successful.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. I think that's very, very cool.
I think that's an underrated part of a headcount conversation, because it's all well and good to ask for more people, but are your people in the right place?
Right.
I had that same situation. I had somebody that was in a senior IT tech role, and we were seeing some negative indicators, and part of that was we had a very frank conversation about that. Like, hey, I need to see more from you. I know you can do more. And honestly, I thought like, okay, I'm doing, the bits before HR has to step in and we do that process. But instead, that went off to like he took that coaching and just ran with it, and is now overperforming any metric I set in front of him. I didn't actually have to execute on any of the measurables over 90 days because he just took the advice, took the feedback. But most importantly was I moved him from a senior technician role that was customer facing, like we're saying, to an engineer role. He's flying now. He's knocking out projects day in, day out. I'm so pleased with his work product. It's so much better than what I've known. And, that's part of headcount too. I had to make the case to move this guy that had everyone in the company scratching their heads. And I literally said the words, just trust me, bro. And it's paying off so far.
That's great.
Yeah, that's definitely really important, because not just the number of people, it's what your people are doing and if they're doing the right things. Stepping back into kind of communicating with leadership, other leadership, on getting headcount. A lot of them are not going to be as technical. So how do you communicate the needs that are on your team? Like, Trevor said, you need somebody that is better at scripting, somebody that you can use Power Automate, things like that. How do you communicate those needs when they can get a little bit more granular than maybe someone that is less technical?
I think you have to set yourself up as the expert there. I think, and I'm speaking just for myself, really. And so your mileage may vary here too. The relationship I have with my CFO is very interesting in that she truly does not want to know the nitty gritty about IT in any way. She does not want to deal with it. That's honestly why I'm here in this role, because otherwise it's her job. She doesn't care, doesn't want it. Okay, great. I don't have to give her any of that you're mentioning there, but that's because I've shown to her that I'm competent in this role and that I know what I'm doing and I'm the expert here. So when I ask for this, she's like, okay, is this going to be worth it? Yes, absolutely. And here's why. And I can see her eyes start glazing because I start rattling off down the rabbit trail of exactly how this is going to benefit everything. And then I see her eyes glaze over. I'm like, okay, I'll stop. Yes, just trust me, bro. But again, please know that's not prescriptive of every single organization. I know I'm in a nonprofit weird world. I'm aware of that.
Yeah, but you're right about CFOs. I mean, CFOs, they don't want to have anything to do with it, but they do need to explain it to their reports. And, that's where I always use analogies. And I mean, analogies are really the best way to approach anything, to break it down, whether you use the car analogy or whatever. I know that's old and tired, but, it works for everybody. You can use a sports analogy as well, like with Moneyball and coaching and things like that. But, it's just, if you start to see their eyes glaze over, which I see all the time, I'm just like, okay, I'm losing you, aren't I? You have to just stop. And then, check yourself and make sure they've got the concept and that they're following you, because, in this day and age, we're all so distracted and we've got so many things going on and the next emergency vying for our attention. My thing is also have bullet points and just be very direct and boom, 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 boom. Here you go. Do you understand this? Okay, great. Let's move on. So yeah, tech is very esoteric to a lot of people. And the more and more I work with people, the more and more I'm shocked at how esoteric it is. Cause I was thinking some of these younger generations would be like, oh, we're with it. And you think that you've got a younger CFO that you're reporting to. Oh, I can talk to you on a techno level, and you find out, oh no, you can't. And that's really the challenge. So you have to break it down how they understand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do y'all? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Trevor.
Oh no, sorry. I was going to say, technology-wise, a lot of the solutions that we're proposing are technical, but the needs that created them aren't necessarily technical. So when somebody's coming up to me from a different department, they don't know what the solution is to make it easier for them to get from point A to point B, and it's probably going to be a script or something technical. So I try to keep as many use cases that I know you're the CFO, the CEO, whoever I'm proposing to. If I know their background, which I try to cheat and then know that they came up through a certain path, then I'll try to put it into financial terms, or I'll try to put it into development terms or sales terms, whatever they're familiar with. Just relaying back to what the original request was, and then rely on them trusting you to be the expert for the solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do y'all handle cases where maybe the headcount needs are, like Tim said, your one technician is in the corner, he's burnt out, he's struggling, how do you communicate those kinds of risks to a business, when it is not as much, we need somebody to handle scripting, it's more, we don't want to lose this person. How do you kind of communicate those needs?
It's going to cost you more to lose this person and rehire them than ultimately it probably would be to just hire another person. Like, we're going to, and also that's not good for morale. Like, you think about it, like that means if I lose this one technician that I have, or if I'm the solo IT manager, been there, and then I get burnt out and leave, that definitely hasn't happened to me, then, they're the CFOs. Literally in my case, I quit because I was so burnt out. Honestly, at my last job before I came here, I was so burnt out that I just left. And you know what happened? The CFO didn't really care to talk to me because I was leaving, right? Whatever. It's all well and good. But then they had to have complex conversations with insanely technical people on the MSP that we had, and they were just stuck. They waited out my 30 days notice I gave them, didn't ask any questions of me. I did my best to give them what I had, and that left them holding the bag, and CFOs don't like holding the IT bag, as we've established. So, I think you have to just say, look, I need this. You can either give me the same amount of money and tools, and I can probably make it work, or you can give me another person, and it will definitely help. Plus, we're employing a person in 2025. We should probably try to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually don't figure that out until day 31, Tim. That's when they have their oh crap moment. Oh,
I got a lot of
text
all
our knowledge.
Yeah.
And I just to kind of add to a little bit, and I know this is kind of like a deflection on that question, but it's still pretty pertinent. You also, if you have this relationship with your CFO and about headcount and so on and so forth, and ticketing, it's been a nightmare for me. Like, especially when you're understaffed, it's hard to get your staff to please enter this ticket because this is how we justify we need more people. I've always had a problem with that, and I don't know how anybody else is dealing with it, but I just communicate with my team. Hey, this is how we justify things. This is how we. I know we're down. I know we need an extra person, but I need your help to just stop at the end of the day, 15 minutes, whatever it takes. Keep a notepad, as you go along, because I know emergencies come off all throughout the day. Please make sure you get your tickets in. It's hard to get that buy-in when they're burnt out too, right? Because we're understaffed. Conversely, if we're overstaffed, that's also probably the most important communication you can have with your direct report, and subsequently their report, because that's how you gain trust. So if I don't think this happens pretty rarely, but IT is never really overstaffed, but it does happen. And when you approach, your direct report and say, hey, look, I think we're overstaffed because, here's the numbers that justify this. You win so much trust points with that person and integrity points that they will give you whatever you need because they know that you're bringing them valid information, whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
I like the so if I'm trying to keep people from going too overboard, and this is before IT, for a while I was selling stuff. I was in sales. I'm sure a lot of people have done that. So I kind of have to fall back on sales a little bit. And when I go forward with my proposals and to push positions through, I have conveniently the other solutions to our problem. Tim mentioned it. Oh, we can add software. Let's add $10,000 worth of software here, and maybe I can buy you 2 months. Oh, look at this. We can go to, in my world, I can go out to an MSP. I can go to you guys, right? Let's bring in an MSP to try to cover the gap in this one little spot. I tried exactly that. I went through a few different proposals, but we are so specialized at this point. I would either need to completely restructure my department to have an MSP take over a certain spot, or I just don't get good value. So I can spend tens, 20, 30 thousands of dollars and get very poor value in return out of it. But you'll be able to keep your staff. So it's the good, better, best sales technique and kind of assuming the sale. Like, so here are your choices. You select one and then make them turn around and see that no is actually an option.
Yeah,
that's gotten me the farthest.
That's a great point too. Like looking at like where you can cut areas in your budget to free up some room for extra employees. Very, very valid point, because 9 times out of 10 we can always find the low hanging fruit in, whatever sales team or whoever. Oh, we brought in this great application that nobody uses, and we can trim that off the budget. Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Can I say two things there? Go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, I was going to say, I usually just try to sales pitch, let's just not support the police department around here anymore. They're a lot of trouble.
That's an effective argument. I mean, two things there. Number one, you can't possibly hope to make that argument if you don't know what's going on. I have always said that you have to go put yourself in the rooms where things are happening. You have to stick your nose in business as IT. Because if you do, you're going to find those low-hanging fruit. I walked into this role and we use DocuSign a ton for our communications and contracts and everything we sign. Flagrant envelope usage. It's horrible. Still kind of is. It's a project. But I was able to bring that down and bring those costs down. And again, that's one thing that the CFO is like, yay, money. If you're saving money, I'll give you that money right back. But the other thing too, and this is again me, I'm not saying do this. This is a nuclear option. We were dealing with some pretty severe funding cuts going into this fiscal year 25, which is calendar year. So already we were down several $1 million because the state just decided not to pay us. Love it. Thanks. So I went to my CFO, took her to lunch, and I said, look, here's the deal. You want IT to be internal. I want IT to be internal. Here is what it would take if we had to completely let go of every single person and run with an MSP, which you do not want to do. You've said it. And I don't think it's wise at this moment. But if you had to save money, here's how much you would save. And I was taking a gamble there. I think we can all see it, right? You can see the trap I was trying to step into. But I know my CFO, and I know that she didn't want an MSP. She's been burned too many times with bad ones. But she knows that I'm coming to her with a solution like, hey, if you have to press the panic button, we are, I'm acknowledging the cost center part of IT. If you need to press that panic button, I've got some good options for you. I will facilitate this if you need it. She has not ever brought it up again. And, in having budget conversations just last week, it was, no, we're all internal. Here you go. Here's your payroll budget. In fact, I'm going to give you more. So again, I'm not saying do that. That may, you have to shoot your shot and know that it's going to work. But I don't know. Like, I was able to show that, hey, there is another option but I don't think it's going to work because. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just interested in justifying myself for the sake of myself. I was like, look, I'm the first to go. I'm going to say put this guy in charge. My salary is significantly more. That would help justify the thing. So anyway, just being honest and transparent is going to help you a ton more than trying to bluff or do anything like that. That's all I guess I'm saying.
Yeah.
And too many times they come to us with the bluff, right? They're like trying to see, okay, well, what kind of option can we do if I need to cut this budget? Like you just encountered. You called their bluff and they're like, oh, no, we can't do this.
It worked. It just showed that I'm not interested in keeping things around for the sake of it. Ultimately, she's got to do what's right for her and her budget, and try telling that to the 7 people that would have to lose their job, and that's a powerful motivator. Maybe not work in all the case, but there you go.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about Trevor specifically. You had said, I think, I don't know if it was just backstage or if it was here too, that you are told no and you just keep asking, what do you do when you get that pushback and you do really think that it is important? And this is a good question for everybody, but how do you push back against their pushback?
Well, hopefully you have the second stance ready. So to have that MSP vendor, that outside quote, that piece of software that's going to be the stopgap. So they know if they say no to this position, at minimum, we're still going to need this much money. Yeah, I like Tim's. I after crying gently in the corner, I proceed. If you're doing this well and you're not walking into a position too new, hopefully you're asking for the position before you're desperate, before you have that guy crying his husk in the corner. If you're starting the position understaffed, that's rough. But I did start 1 year behind. This whole process should have started 1 year earlier. But if you do get a jump on it, you should be requesting that position and letting them know years ahead of time, hey, by 2027, I'm going to need another staff position at this growth rate. Start in 2024 if you need it. Hey, the way it's going right now, unless something changes, unless we make some kind of huge commitment somewhere else, I need that staff member in 3 years. I need that staff member in 2 years. I need that staff member. And maybe even give yourself a 1 year lead time, because it takes a long time to onboard, takes a long time to train, and to make them proficient. So you really have to dedicate yourself to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I'd add to that is you have to be vigilant and mindful and protect your boundaries when they deny, okay, we're not going to give you headcount, we're not going to do this, we're not going to give you this budget. That they don't come back 3 months later and try and sneak those same projects in that they were asking for, all these new things, and just say, look, we don't have the bandwidth. I told you this 3 months ago. We can't magically all of a sudden have bandwidth, after our budget talks. And I've had people try to slip so many projects in, and, that's where you just have to stand your ground and keep that protected, and then say, well, if we had that additional head, we could do it, but I can't promise we can do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you as IT are honest and transparent and in all things, right? You're not bluffing. You shouldn't be bluffing with this. This is people's livelihoods. Your people that you're trying to bring on is important. But it's a double-edged sword. Yes, you're being honest and transparent over here in making your ask, but also if you get told no, there's honest and transparent ramifications for that action that Clark mentioned. I can't do all the cool things. No, you should have listened to me when I was open and honest over here on the good side. Now you get bad, Tim. Haha. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what is so bad about corporate culture is everybody's used to bluffing. But what I find is IT rarely bluffs. I mean, we're black and white. We're straight up. We're honest. We're like, well, this ones and zeros, here you go. But when you work with the other departments, they're all about, oh, well, I got to fudge these numbers, because it's the lazy way, right? Bluffing is the lazy way. And you just go you don't get what you don't ask for kind of approach. But, I think that's where IT, we're always right sized. I mean, we're just always very, very mindful of what we do. But all the other departments are like, oh, it's Christmas time. I'm gonna, ask for everything I can. Here's my wish list. When, I think that's part of our Achilles heel sometimes too. But I wouldn't have it any other way because, like you said, Tim, integrity, honesty, transparency is the most important thing when it comes down to what we do. Because we're really running the company with infrastructure.
So a couple things have occurred to me. I have a story and a new goal. First of all, my goal is I want to see Mean Tim because I don't know that Mean Tim exists, but I'm very curious now. Two, just a little story to share the other side of this sword, and Clark just put it in such a good way. When I started, 20 years ago, I said I started as an IT technician position. I beat out one other person by a very small margin to get the position, and it just so happened that they lost my counterpart, and he ended up getting hired 1 week after me. And this was right before the U.S. had a little bit of recession in 2007, 2008. So that brand new position that had just been justified had to get let go 2 years later. Now, my first boss made the painful had the painful discussion and said you have to be let go. But then he made a mistake. Is he was so worried about ever having to let somebody go again that he would never request another position, and that's one of the ways we ended up a bit behind. But that is one thing that the integrity of our department and being able to handle these information systems and have access to so much critical data and so much power that we have. If you are honest and transparent and need that position, make sure that you're not trying to bluff your way through it just so you can have it, because you may have to let that person go. And unless you are one of the very few people who's comfortable with that, don't put yourself in that position.
And for the record, I mean, just so you know what operation I'm running here, by the end of March, the organization's gonna be 800 people. And we started a couple of months before I started in 2022, we were 75 people. And so it's been bonkers growth. Bonkers. And so now we're sitting about 400 in this weird little intermediary year that we've been, where Tim has gotten to kind of understand what being a VP is like. And then they're like, cool, double that and give it to the next person, I guess. But I'm doing all of that, and my total staff head count right this second, we have some contingency positions, which is a whole other thing. In my budget this year, it's not, I need this. It's if we need this. I have one that's a DevOps engineer that I definitely need. But the other one is I'm putting in another technician request just in case we need it. If we start seeing these trends and analyses, because I've gotten my CFO trained on those, if she sees these indicators, and she asked for a monthly ticketing report, so she's going to be able to see the data herself, which I was like, okay, cool. You're finally asking for a ticketing report. I was wondering when you'd come to me for that. But she wants to see the data. She wants to see it, so she can make the call. What position am I in right now? That's incredible. But I asked her for one additional technician. She said, no, put 2 in. I'm not driving the bus anymore. What's happening? But I don't know. I'm saying all that to say that when at max growth, we would be about 11 people in IT for 800. I'm not bloating the department at all, and the CFO knows that. There's other departments that are trying, but she's kicking their requests down because they're trying to bloat too much. HR is over here trying to have 15 people. Meanwhile, I'm running, we're the 4th largest nonprofit in the San Antonio metropolitan area when we're done growing. And I'm doing it with at most 11 people. We're all aware of that challenge.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think
that what you're doing. I mean, with 11 people.
I mean, it's massive. Dan also said in the chat, IT doesn't typically fudge numbers because too many of us are used to trying to find the root cause. And the root cause is we don't have enough people, and here's the data to prove it. So, it can be that straightforward when you're trying to prove, trying to justify. And then I wanted to ask if y'all had any specific examples of a headcount request that was approved, how you were able to do that, and then if there's anything that you would change about the next time that you go about asking for headcount. I think it's tougher for you, Clark, because you have your
That's
own
a tough
business.
one for sure. Yeah, I can hire my own people, but when I did like have a staff and I worked for another company, it was, again, it was just kind of all the same things we've talked about today: is help desk tickets, getting your team to buy in, putting your people in the right positions, making your team a well-oiled machine, being transparent, and that integrity. This just kind of sums everything up we discussed today. And how would I approach that and do it better next time? Geez, I don't know. I mean, these are the same things we all go through, but what I have the benefit of hindsight now, when when I didn't run a company, but the hindsight that I have now that I would definitely apply is, as Tim was saying earlier, get involved in other departments, ask the stupid questions. I did not do that so much when, before. I do it now as a business owner, obviously, but in IT, you're kind of really just focused on fixing problems, break fix. You need to start focusing on what solutions the other departments need. Start facilitating that conversation between those other departments and go to them and just straight up go into their office and say, how can I help you? How can we make your life better? The real basic Socratic stupid questions end up being the best questions to ask, because they will tell you everything. They will even share the reports from their department. They say, how can you help me fix this? I didn't do that in the first 10 years of my career. I learned it fairly quickly after that, but that's one thing that I would definitely change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you how that went with, doubling the department. And we did that about May through July last year. And then here we did it again. We doubled. Well, what I did with the technicians is I went through and I said, okay, CFO, let's have a frank conversation about what we need to actually handle this growth and when, because there's certain pockets of money that become available to us from the state at certain times. And so I had to kind of game it based on when we could take advantage of the money. And that was a frank conversation with her. But I said, look, I have very authoritative data that says, anywhere from 1 to 25 to 1 to 30, one IT staff for 25 to 30. Let's ignore, let's fake in the fact that we have a data analytics and data department that would traditionally be under IT. And I don't want them. They're happy over there. I want to worry about my stuff. But let's add that together. Okay, when you do that, we're approaching a 1 to 50 ratio. But when you add 400 additional staff, I'm willing to drop down to a 1 to 100 staff ratio because we can automate. I'm going to hire incredibly awesome people. We're going to make sure our policies are great. All these things, we can run really lean by default. All these things combined, I was able to say, look, I'm willing to make a concession here off of the best practice. And I'm making that step. But then, I guess that was the main thing I wanted to relay there, was how that went. Is I said, I'm willing to make that concession for you. And I mean, this is just what's going to help us. I mean, we can retool this at any time. And we've done that. But if I had to do it again, I don't know that I would do anything differently, except maybe work somewhere else that's not a nonprofit, because it's kind of funky. But I can't help that right now. But I guess your mileage may vary. You have to know your environment fundamentally, and I think that's going to inform a lot of how you do it. So I can't say I would do anything differently, because I probably wouldn't be able to.
It's hard to say you do something differently on the positive, like when you get it. So again, I just said I went through two positions, the technical position, and I was given the choice, mind you. They said, hey, if you can only have one, which one are you going to choose? Well, I'm going to choose the one that's not going to leave my guys as burnt out husks. The mistake that I made, though, really is focused on that second position. We talked about the automation and helping other departments and meeting with other departments. I started to get people hyped up about the possibilities if we had this position added. Like, oh yeah, that'd be great. You know what? We could totally automate this part of this. You wouldn't have to worry about somebody. You could save all kinds of time. You don't got to worry about adding extra staff positions. It would be this much easier. People got excited. Well, I didn't use that excitement. I should have had these other departments advocating for me to actually get a second position. So it doesn't look like IT is getting 2 positions. My department's currently only 4 people, so a jump from 4 to 6 seems like a lot. But in reality, that 6th position is really everybody. It's every department. And there's one department that really was looking to get half of their staff, half of one position back, that just left me to pitch the entire thing. And I didn't even think about the fact I should have them all pushing down, trying to get that position added, because this is for everybody. So if I did something all over again, it would be to bring as much outside influence down as possible to try to get everything we need, because we're a department that serves everybody. We know everybody. Let's involve everybody.
That's a great point, because that's honestly how part of my conversation went too, is look, these other departments have access to different state funding in our case. Trevor, your government, it's a similar thing. There's different buckets of money that you can pull from. And if you go engage them, they may be willing to say, look, take it, take a tenth of the salary from my budget. I don't, ultimately at the end, budgets are fake and don't matter, but because people just kind of do whatever. But I mean, maybe you were, I don't know. I would agree with you, perhaps, but I don't know that you can, beat yourself up about that for one. But definitely, I was able to do that. I was able to go in and say, look, our big state entity is going to be looking at the data. They're about 75% of our tickets versus the more central office that doesn't make as much money, quote unquote, doesn't bring in as much income. So 75% of all new technicians, therefore, we should probably have stuff earmarked from their funding if we can allocate it. And she was able to track that argument. And honestly, she and I kind of came to the same conclusion at the same time. As I was explaining it, she was already running the numbers in her head. So, Clark, I'm sorry. You should make a case for more headcount with audio. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe I can ask Circle about that. But well, we have gotten to time, so I really, really appreciate y'all spending your hour here with us, both, everybody hosting and that's in the chat. So really, really appreciate it. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with a little spooky Halloween themed episode. We'll be talking about haunting moments in IT leadership, those things that you learned in your past and they still haunt you to this day. And maybe they're things that you've learned from. So your entire life right now is a haunting moment. Great. Perfect. Well, maybe maybe you'll have some stories to be able to bring to the table beforehand and we can chat about them then. But yeah, in the meantime, I hope y'all have a good rest of the day. And yeah, we'll catch you in a couple of weeks. All right. Take care. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.